Coming up on Let's Get to the Points.
How did you get from San Francisco over to Portugal for your trip?
That was probably the most incredible deal we've ever gotten, flying business class on points.
Tell us how that experience was.
Upon arrival, I think it was the day of the check-in, they have upgraded us to the premium suite. It wasn't even the room, it was an apartment.
So what are some of the other properties that you were able to stay at?
In Cocorico in Porto, we had this family suite, a big living room / bedroom space, separate room with bunk beds for the kids, which they absolutely love. They had toys in the room.
Irina, by any chance, are you a Hyatt globalist?
By any chance, we are. Oh, my husband. Sorry.
And now, let's get to the points. She loves making family travel first class without the first class cost. It's Serena. For him, no travel style is off limits and no destination is too far. It's Miguel. And he loves to use his credit card points and miles for unforgettable experiences in first class and beyond. It's Mitch Shannon.
Tonight, I want to see if I can make you hungry.
Done.
All right, how about some suckling pig? Maybe a delicious custard tart? How about endless amounts of seafood? Are you hungry yet? Now that we've made you hungry, let's paint the picture a little bit more. Golden cliffs, turquoise water, cobblestone streets, and some beautiful coastal towns. Portugal is the most western country in the mainland Europe, and it's also one of the best value destinations on the continent, offering rich culture and amazing food at prices way lower than you're going to find in some of the neighboring countries. Now that we've sold you on Portugal, it's time to share how to get there on points and miles. Miguel has the best use of points, and Serena's going to share some of the best hotel redemptions and locations as well. And to help us plan our custard tart dining experience, we have Irina from the Instagram channel On Points with Kids. And as always, we invite you to join in our conversation online by leaving a comment below. Okay, Irina, I was in Lisbon a couple years ago, and I had what I think is one of the best custard tarts from Pastéis de Belém, I think. And I want to know, is that the best, or did you find better elsewhere?
So actually, that's also the place that we went to on our very first day. And second place was the Hyatt Regency. So I don't think that would be better than the original place to have those custards. They were really good. The kids approved it. And, they love sweets, but they wouldn't eat anything. So I think that's the place to go when you're in Lisbon.
Do you mean the Hyatt Regency had it for breakfast or in the lounge?
Yes, they had it for breakfast. They had a ginormous breakfast buffet and they served those custards just right there. I was really actually surprised.
Yummy.
Irina, by any chance, are you a Hyatt globalist?
By any chance, we are. Oh, my husband. Sorry. Well, my husband is.
We're going to have to find a guest that is not a Hyatt globalist because I don't want people to think that everybody else is. If you're not a Hyatt globalist, that's fine. Not everybody is. It just kind of so happens that a lot of our guests are, but you don't have to be one.
I agree, especially with everything that's going on with the world of Hyatt, acquiring the Mr. and Mrs. Smith and those redemptions and the Hyatt changes every March. I was like, it's getting harder and harder to get a globalist. So we'll see in a couple of years if we still are or not.
Yeah, we are more than halfway done through 2025 and I'm still sitting at about 15 elite nights. So I don't think I'm going to be a globalist next year.
We just hit 31 nights.
Whoa!
Yeah. So got that free night certificate, which I have no idea what we're going to use because there's nothing around and it only lasts for 6 months. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it? We usually reach globalists best case scenario end November or sometimes like mid-December. So cutting it very close, but trying to reach it anyways. So we'll see.
You mentioned there's not a lot of options for your Hyatt free night certificate. So where are you based?
So we're in Northern California, closer to San Francisco Bay Area in the Santa Cruz County. Whenever we fly to San Francisco or San Jose. Hyatt hotels, we actually have one really close to us, but it doesn't make sense for me to go and spend the night 15 minutes away from home. But other than that, even the category 1-7, there's one really great hotel 1 hour from us that we love and we used to redeem our certificate at. It's category 8 now, Carmel Ranch. So.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful property.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know where you're going to use it. I don't want to just like use it just to spend the night. But like, on the other hand, it's going to be a qualifying night toward getting a globalist. So we'll see.
For my category 7 recently, I used it at the Hyatt Vacation Club Highlands Inn. That's in Carmel.
It is in our list. I was actually looking at that one because there's 2 properties. I mean, one is Vacation Club. I was thinking about that one and looking at that one, but we went to Palm Springs and we redeemed our 1.7 at Grand Hyatt Indian Wells. I mean, it's not even in category 7. We needed to go there on vacation and we needed to stay somewhere. So we just redeemed it in Palm Springs.
Another West Coaster. I'm happy to see that. Now, how did you get from San Francisco over to Portugal for your trip? What flights did you take to get there?
We flew with TAP Air Portugal, San Francisco to Lisbon, and from Lisbon to San Francisco. That time, going to Portugal, we actually booked a round trip, which you almost never do when you're flying with points and miles. It was the round trip through ANA. That was probably the most incredible deal we've ever gotten flying business class on points. I saw the Instagram post about deals flying to Portugal. It was that Instagram account, Find Flights for Me. He just posted, oh, there are like incredible deals from San Francisco to Lisbon. And if you book through ANA, it's going to be only 88,000 points round trip per person, which is like 44,000 flying one way in business class, which is, I mean, you basically never see those numbers. And it was only $66. So it was February. He posted some days in October the same year. And, you know, there are no holidays or vacations, school breaks. That time of the year, I decided to take an independent study week. We do at least once a year with our kids. So we checked the dates on ANA website and they had an availability. The most tricky part was that when you transfer your points to ANA, it's not instant. So you had to wait and like God knows how long you could have waited. Again, they had availability of flying to Lisbon and back to the days that we wanted. We roughly thought a week there would be enough. So it was Friday night when me and my husband were just like thinking and looking at those dates and numbers, not knowing should we transfer? And then we go, okay, let's hit the button. So we transferred the points, and you know, with the availability and deals like that, you have no idea if those days would be there tomorrow. We would just end up with a bunch of points in ANA or not. So took a leap of faith. The points came Sunday morning, from Friday night to Sunday morning, bit of a wait, and we checked the dates. They were still there. Everybody was so happy. And we needed 4 tickets because 2 adults, 2 kids. So we booked everything and everything worked out. I couldn't even believe myself. That was such an incredible deal. And the cash rate, I think it was like $16,000 for the 4 of us, which is like no way we would have paid, right? So that was the first time we flew to Portugal on TAP Air Portugal. We loved the product. We loved the business class. We actually, when flying to Spain, we also flew TAP Air Portugal. And when we were flying to London later this summer, we're also flying TAP Air Portugal. But we did not book those flights through ANA. Spain and London one, we booked through Air Canada. It was $70,000 per person, I believe, like $150, something like that.
Yeah, I think that was a great deal. And prior to this summer with ANA, you had to book round trip. They didn't allow one ways, but you can now book one ways with ANA, even though those rates have been devalued and it's a little bit more now to get to Europe from the US with ANA. The good thing is that you can mix going to Europe or returning with ANA and maybe the other segment with a different program if you don't have enough miles with American Express to transfer to the ANA mileage club.
That's such a great deal, Irina. I'm so glad you were able to secure it in time before someone else grabbed those flights in those days. But was the lounge experience in the United Polaris Lounge even better than the food on the plane?
The plane was leaving at 4 p.m., I believe, and we did not have a chance to go to the lounge in the San Francisco airport. Yes. I mean, like, I looked it up. You would have gotten to the United Polaris Lounge. Yeah, I knew that, but we didn't have much time. And I think the kids even went to school that morning because, I mean, I didn't want to miss a lot of school days. So I think we just picked them up a little earlier and we just like drove straight to the airport and went to the boarding straight away. But we did go to the lunch in Lisbon, but that's a different experience because, I mean, Lisbon is the hub for TAP Air Portugal, right? I mean, that's a different lounge. So in terms of the flight itself, it was a really smooth flight. The kids got little amenity backpacks with some coloring pages and socks. Talking about socks, actually. So by now we flew Japan Airlines, Air France, and TAP Air Portugal. But TAP Air Portugal is the only out of those 3 airlines that does not provide slippers. So they provide socks, which I feel weird wearing in an airplane for an 11-hour flight. So from now on, we grab the hotel slippers and bring them with us to fly business class TAP Air Portugal. That's our thing now. And whenever literally when at the hotel, I mean, I was like, okay, let's grab those slippers for the TAP Air Portugal. That's the inside joke. But besides that, the staff was really attentive. I mean, the 4-year-old flying in business class might seem, I don't know, not everybody would agree that you should bring kids in business class and all, but the staff was very attentive. They would ask them what drink they would like and what kind of extra bread or food. Another thing about TAP Air Portugal, that not only they serve champagne, but they serve port wine. That was very interesting. Just as soon as you see they offer port wine, I was like, oh, this is the taste of Portugal right away. So that was really nice. Another thing I wanted to mention, interestingly, a few people ask me, how do we sit when flying with kids in business class? The thing I never thought I would be explaining. For our family, the thing that worked out the best is to take the whole row. So if it's 1-to-1 layout, adults would take 2 middle seats and the kids would sit in the window seats. So that way each adult have an access to the kid next to them. So that's what we did. Very first time we flew in business class, it was Japan Airlines. And we took 2 sets of middle seats, and I did not realize that you cannot access the person sitting next to you. So it was adult kid and adult kid. So I could not access my own child sitting next to me in the middle seat because there was a little wall. So I had to go around or ask my husband who was sitting behind me to help her. So didn't make sense. So from that on, we would just take the whole row and it was the perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I think that some configurations on airplanes aren't conducive to sitting with your child at all. So we do the same thing. We take up the whole row, but we do it the opposite where my husband and I are on the window and I put the kids in the middle. The only exception is Air France. Air France will not allow you to sit young children in the middle. They're required to be on the window. So we do the whole row as well. And your sock story is very interesting because I never thought about that, but you're right. It's weird. Why would you put on socks and just walk around with your socks, right? You'd want to have slippers. I think that's more proper, but I like how you bring slippers. That's a great idea.
That's what we do now.
Portugal is pretty well connected to the US. And no matter which airline you prefer, you can get there using points and miles. Mitch, I'm not talking about Singapore. You're not going to go the long way. I'm talking about US carriers and European carriers, but there's a lot of options. So let's go over those options. Starlines has the most nonstops and the best options. TAP Air Portugal, which is Portugal's flag carrier, flies to Lisbon from San Francisco, LA, Chicago, Miami, Washington Dulles, Boston, Newark, New York, Montreal, Toronto, and even Cancun. And TAP Air Portugal also flies to Porto from Newark and Boston. United Airlines flies to Lisbon from Newark and Washington Dulles and to Porto from Newark. And United also has a seasonal route to Faro from Newark. Air Canada flies to Lisbon from Toronto and Montreal and to Porto from Montreal. Some of your best options to book Star Alliance carriers like TAP Air Portugal, United, or Air Canada can be best booked with United Airlines or Air Canada Aeroplan. With Air Canada, you can book economy starting at 30,000 points and business class starting at 60,000 points depending on the distance. As you start adding connections, that rate can increase. You can transfer to Aeroplan from American Express, Capital One, and Chase. With United Airlines, you can book economy starting at about 40,000 miles and business class starting at 80,000 miles. You can transfer into United Airlines from Bilt or Chase. Avianca Life Miles used to be a pretty good program. They even had a sweet spot where you can book JFK into Lisbon for 35,000 points of business class, but that sweet spot is long gone. So now you're looking at 40,000 points in economy or 80,000 in business class. You can transfer to Avianca Life Miles from American Express, Bilt, Capital One, Citi, and Wells Fargo. One good thing about the the Avianca Life Miles program is that if you add a connection with a mixed cabin with one of the segments in economy, sometimes you could get a lower rate. So play around with that. One World has a few nonstops, but if you don't mind connections, you could connect for a little bit more options. American Airlines flies to Lisbon from Philadelphia, or you could connect with British Airways via London or with Iberia via Madrid or Barcelona. To book One World Awards, if you have American Airline miles, the economy one-way rate is 19,000 miles or 57,500 miles in business class. If you have Alaska miles, you could also book some of these flights starting at 22,500 miles in economy or 45,000 miles in business class. You could also book these through any of the Avios loyalty programs like Iberia, British Airways, Qatar, Aer Lingus, or Finnair. Now on to SkyTeam. Delta flies to Lisbon from Boston and New York, or you could connect on Air France via Paris or on KLM via Amsterdam. And even though Virgin Atlantic does not fly to Portugal, you can use Virgin Atlantic points to book Delta, Air France, or KLM flights to Lisbon, but Delta will have high surcharges. If you have Delta miles, you can book economy starting at 40,000 miles, and business class pricing is going to be so ridiculous, so don't worry about that. To book through Air France and KLM's Flying Blue program, you can sometimes find economy for under 20,000 miles, and business class starts at 60,000 miles. The rates for booking SkyTeam Awards through Virgin Atlantic start at only 12,000 points in economy or 48,500 business class. And then another option that I wanted to bring up is actually Iceland Air, because there's often good sales that they have, $500 or $600 round trip cash, and their business class being maybe like $900 or $1,000 round trip. Iceland Air's business class is more like a domestic first class. They don't have lie flat seats. They have recliner seats. They call it their Saga class, but none of these flights from the US into Reykjavik, Iceland are over about 8 hours. So they're not very long flights. And when you book Iceland Air, you can include a free stopover of up to 7 days. After your stopover, you can continue on to Portugal. And that flight is only maybe 3 or 4 hours. So I think that's another good option. When you find some of these good cash fares, maybe look through your bank's travel portal to see if you can use points to offset the cost. I don't think I would mind a free stopover in Iceland for a good cash deal like that. So I have been to Portugal a couple of times. The first time I actually didn't fly there. I was in Seville, Spain, and we did a day trip because it's only about a couple hours from Seville down to Faro, which is in the southern coast, the Algarve region in Portugal. It's a beautiful area. The water down there and those cliffs and caves, it is beautiful down there. So the first time that I went, we were driving. The second time I went, I actually flew into Porto from Frankfurt on Ryanair. So that trip was actually unplanned because I had booked a trip somewhere else. I forgot where, but that trip was canceled. So Ryanair said, you're free to choose any destination for the same price. And I had paid, I think about $40 round trip for that fare, that Ryanair flight. And I picked Porto because that destination usually wasn't as cheap to get to from Frankfurt. So I took advantage of this opportunity where Ryanair let me choose a destination, and I chose Porto. I went there over a weekend. I used my $200 platinum FHR credit for a hotel and had a great time. I think I was only there for like a day per usual.
Yeah, I have been to Portugal and it all just came back to me. I remember how we got there. So I don't know if you all remember this deal or not, but a couple years ago, right back around during COVID, Iberia was offering this deal. If you flew some domestic flights, they would give you all these bonus points in their program. Well, I bought all these domestic flights like I was going to Barcelona and all these, I wasn't, but I bought these flights. And if you took 10 of these flights, then they would give you all these points. So that's how we booked it. We ended up booking LA to Madrid and then on to Lisbon. And we were in Lisbon, I think, for about a week. And we had a great time. We really enjoyed it. The highlight, I think, for me, and don't laugh, I know this is so stupid, I like the bridge, their version of the Golden Gate Bridge. That they have. It just kind of reminded me of the Bay Area a little bit. So I thought it was beautiful. You know, it's not as big. It's kind of a little bit smaller, but yeah, you should check it out, Serena. I think you would like this Golden Gate Bridge.
You know, thanks for reminding me because I forgot about that. I need to go to visit the bridge. I haven't been before, so I need to go to see that bridge, and I need to go to Algarve since Miguel says it's beautiful and there are a lot of nice fancy hotels in that area. And I want to go to Porto to eat.
That bridge actually has a very long name. It's 25th April Bridge, like literally 25th April Bridge. And then in Portuguese, again, I don't speak Portuguese, like Ponte 25 de Abreu. What's the whole thing? It's like the singing song. It's very beautiful. And you could see that bridge from Hyatt Regency, Lisbon. And we had a room that was facing right at the bridge, and it was so beautifully lit at night. It did look like Golden Gate. I mean, it is. I was Googling which one came first, but I completely do not remember.
Okay, since you spent some time at the Hyatt Regency, tell us how that experience was.
People a lot of time, they ask, what do you book first? Tickets, like plane tickets or hotels, right? I mean, I always say it depends. Like if it's the property that I want to visit, I would obviously book the hotel, especially with Hyatt. If it opens 13 months in advance, I would book the hotels and then would wait for the flights. When we saw the availability to fly business class, Seats.aero Portugal, we jumped on that. We booked the tickets, but I checked the hotel right away to see if they had the dates that we needed, and they did. And it was only 15,000 Hyatt points per night, which is a very good deal these days. So we booked 4 nights, and I do not think that the standard room allows 4 people in it. But we did have a Suite Upgrade Award, our favorite award in Hyatt. And they had the standard suite also. So we used that award, applied the Suite Upgrade Award to the standard suite. That way it would allow 4 of us to sleep in one room. And upon arrival, I think it was the day of the check-in, they have upgraded us to the premium suite, which is, to be honest, never happened before, because we have used the Suite Upgrade like many times. And we've been like to Hyatt properties like a lot of times. We had never gotten the premium suite. Either we were traveling on busy days, weekends, holidays, or whatever the combination was. Another thing why I like traveling in mid-October, I thought it would be less people, and I guess that worked in our advantage too. So we were upgraded to this corner premium suite, which is basically wasn't even the room. It was an apartment.
Wow.
It had a bedroom. It had a huge living room with the kitchen, washer and dryer, stove, and it was a panoramic balcony overlooking that famous bridge. It was amazing, and it's a brand new property relatively. I think it only opened like a few years ago, right? So everything was new, everything was beautiful, and the staff was nice.
Earlier in the show, you talked about this ginormous breakfast at the Hyatt Regency. Can you tell us more about that?
The breakfast at the Hyatt Regency Lisbon was served buffet style, and it was a lot of options. So the thing when I usually share on my Instagram whether the property offered smoked salmon or not, because I do love smoked salmon. This is how I basically rate properties. Okay, they did have smoked salmon. It's a great property. I mean, not necessarily, but it's like my own rating. And they did have smoked salmon, along with the famous pastel de nata and free mimosas, which we didn't even know those were free. I didn't even see them. It was like probably, so out of 4 nights, I think I saw them on the 3rd morning. I was like, what are those? It was champagne, like sparkling wine and orange juice for free. I was like, okay, I'll take it. They did have fruits, eggs, deli.
Did they have hot items too?
Yes, they did offer hot items too. It was eggs, bacon, I believe some potatoes. So that was the first part of the breakfast. And then it just went along the big counter. So it was a lot of options. This was a solid breakfast. We liked it.
Well, I think that any breakfast that comes with mimosas is solid.
Yes.
That's how I rate the breakfast.
That's your rating. If you have mimosas, it's a good breakfast, right?
Right.
A rather interesting thing about dining options at the Hyatt Regency Lisbon. So they have this rooftop bar / restaurant. I wouldn't call it restaurant, like rooftop bar where they offer some snacks, but they do not allow kids after 8 p.m. That's one thing. And we got there at 7:20, I believe. So we knew that we would have to leave in 40 minutes, but that was okay. And it was very beautiful. It was open space. I mean, the rooftop, right? And you could see the bridge. It was really nice. But another thing is they would charge you 25 euros per adult, whether you spend it on food and drinks or not. So meaning like you could buy drinks and snacks and pay that amount like with your bill. But if you spend less than 25, you would still have to pay those 25. So it would be at least 50 euros for 2 adults just to go there and enjoy the view in the evening. Whenever I see no kids or no kids allowed after a certain time, I don't blame them. I mean, I totally understand. I would never get upset about that. I was like, yeah, I understand why you have that rule. I agree. But actually, they let us stay, I believe, until like 8:15 or something, because they were not that busy, and they said it's totally okay, take your time, 20 minutes, 15 minutes wouldn't do any harm. So that was really nice of them. But just for the future, if you go there, no kids allowed, and you would still have to pay that fee.
I think 8 p.m. is a reasonable hour to not allow kids because, that's usually my kids' bedtime, as much as they don't like such an early bedtime. So do you recommend going to the rooftop, even with that fee?
Yeah, it was really beautiful. It was such a nice vibe. They had fire pits. Again, that bridge looks very beautiful, and the river, it was really nice.
So that Hyatt Regency sounds like a great property, especially with a beautiful view of let's just call it the Golden Gate Bridge number 2. How about that? So what are some of the other properties that you were able to stay at?
So the second property that we stayed at in Portugal was Cocorico Porto, located in Porto, Portugal. It's the Mr. and Mrs. Smith property that recently joined Hyatt. So we stayed there for 2 nights. They offer dynamic pricing. So we checked the cash rates and the points rates, and it wasn't a great deal redeeming points. So we decided to use cash for our stay. So when I was looking at the Hyatt properties or not, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they have quite a few properties there. 2 kids, 2 adults. I wanted to make sure that, first of all, that they allow kids at all, because not all of the properties do. And secondly, that if it's possible to stay 4 of us in one room. And this hotel actually had a really great room with bunk beds, which I think is a genius idea. I've only seen twice in my life over all these years of traveling with kids that the hotel would have bunk beds in the room. It's this Mr. and Mrs. Smith property and Grand Hyatt Indian Wells in Palm Springs. I was like, genius. Like, I understand why they wouldn't do that in every room, because I mean, they want people to book more rooms and spend more money, right? But this is such a great idea for families traveling with like 2 or more kids. In Cocorico in Porto, we had this family suite that had a big living room / bedroom space and a little separate room with bunk beds for the kids, which they absolutely loved. They had toys in the room to play with in the little basket. They absolutely approved that too. But another thing is that the breakfast was included for all the guests, which is the thing that not all of the Mr. and Mrs. Smith properties offer. So that was really nice. And again, those 2 qualifying nights towards the globalist status, you wouldn't miss those. And I think actually it was some promo going on at the World of Hyatt, so we earned quite a few points there. I do not remember exactly how much, but the globalist 30% bonus and the promo, like it was a good number. I think it was like more than 10,000 for sure. The hotel is really small. They have only 10 rooms, and it was so cozy staying in the Airbnb basically. And the front desk lady, she was really nice. We actually missed our train going from Lisbon to Porto, the first one, so we had to take another one. She is still waiting for us, and the check-in closes at 9, I think. We were so worried that we were going to miss that time, but like gladly we didn't. I think we arrived at 8:30 or something. But she was really nice. She showed us the map of Porto, things to see, where to eat. I love small hotels, to be honest. Whenever I see a boutique hotel with 10 rooms, the staff is always so attentive, and it's usually a great experience. Would definitely recommend this hotel for the families staying in Porto. It was a great stay.
And you also got your Mr. and Mrs. Smith Brand Explorer checked off?
Yes.
And did it take a while to get the elite night for this property?
I don't think so.
This family room with the bunk bed sounds so nice. How much did this room cost?
So I believe it was $350 per night. Still seemed like a reasonable price, especially since we didn't have to book 2 rooms at other properties. And they had breakfast included, and we had our qualifying nights and some points back. So yeah, just went for it.
When I went to Porto, which was about 5 years ago, this was actually probably my first 5-star hotel stay because this was at the very beginning of my points and miles journey. And I had the American Express Platinum card, which came with a $200 fine hotels and resorts credit. So that's what I used. And I was only there for a night because it was a quick weekend trip. I looked up which FHR properties were in Porto, and I went with Le Monumental Palace, which was a very central location. It's right by, I think, like their city hall. I went into this room. There was a TV in the mirror. I was like, what? Like that was one of the things that amazed me the most from this property. It was also the pandemic special because there were not a lot of people traveling. So this was October 2020. I went down to the pool. I was the only person there. This was an FHR booking. So when you book through American Express FHR, you get a property credit. Now, sometimes you can use that for food and beverages. Sometimes it's designated only for like spa. I think I used it for a spa. You got a massage. I looked up some random dates for this hotel, and the rate is about $300 per night. So if you have that credit, you take $200 off. I mean, $100 plus you get that property credit. I think it was a pretty good use of that credit. I actually made about a 10-minute video vlog about this trip, this one-day trip. I haven't really shared this, but if you guys want to see a vlog about 24 hours in Porto, in Portugal, let us know in the comments, and then we can upload that to this channel.
Wow, Miguel, you're really good with those 24-hour trips. Maybe that can be a series for us. Irina, did you stay at any other hotels in Portugal?
We actually spent one more night in Lisbon coming back home, but it wasn't the hotel. It was the apartment style hotel. We booked through the Capital One travel portal and used our VentureX $300 credit. It's actually quite a funny story. Oh, funny now because it wasn't funny when we were there. We spent 2 nights in Porto and we took the late train back to Lisbon. And when we arrived in Lisbon, it was already around 8 p.m., maybe even after that. So we walked to this apartments called Lift Apartments by Redan Hotels because the taxi couldn't drop us off exactly by the door. We didn't even know by that time that there is a front desk on the other side of the building. So anyhow, we just came to the address and it was just a closed door. The thing is, when my husband booked this hotel, he did not get the confirmation email because he booked it through his account. It was still active. It was showing active, the booking. There is a booking and the dates that we needed, the property that we needed. But he did not get an email, which he thought it was odd the day before. He was like, I didn't get an email because usually like somebody emails you like a few days before confirming the detail, how to get in. He tried calling the number that he had. Hello, how do we get into the building? And the person on the other end of the phone said, well, you do not have a reservation currently. And by that time, it was probably 8:30 p.m. and everyone was so tired. And especially the kids, we just took the 3-hour train ride and we had a 10 a.m. flight. So when he asked, like, what do you mean I don't have a reservation? He said the reservation was canceled in February and this is the end of October, right? So, I mean, he didn't want to argue. I mean, what are you going to say? He said, okay, can I call you back? So he called the Capital One. The guy on the phone, like he was on the phone, I don't know for how long, said, yes, indeed, you made a reservation and it shows active on your account. But when they internally sent the request to the hotel, they didn't answer in time. So they canceled it in their system, but it still showed active up until we arrived there and they took the credit. So the credit, which was supposed to expire in February. There's no credit, like the $300 were gone, no room, no nothing. He keeps talking and asking, what are the options? What could you offer us? And he says, the best I can do, sir, is to give you the $300 credit back, which we were saying, I mean, my husband saying, I don't need the $300. I need a night to spend with my kids right now at the apartment that I booked. Then he asked, well, can you book anything else right now so I could spend my last night in Lisbon? And then he said, I'm so sorry, sir. We're not going to do that for you. We said the magic words, which is, can I please speak to your manager? I wouldn't be screaming or anything, but I'm usually very emotional. I don't know, like I might have started crying or something. Because at that point, I was saying, let's just go to the airport and spend the night there. No, we're not going to go to... Anyhow, so he was very nice and he said, okay, I understand. Can I please speak to your manager? And then he transferred to the manager And the lady, she was very understanding. She said, okay, I just read what happened or saw. I don't know, like somebody briefed her. And she said, the room that you booked, actually, it is still available. Because that's the thing. It's almost 9 p.m. Sometimes you cannot even book like at that moment the room for that night. It might be like the other night already. So it's very interesting in like tricky situations. She said the room is available, the one that we like wanted to stay, the one that we thought that we booked, and she's just gonna go ahead and book it for us. So she's like, you don't need to do anything. Just confirm the names and the date, and she booked it for us. And we called back the hotel, and he said that he now sees the reservation, and then we have to go to the other side of the building to get the keys. So again, always stay calm and be nice. I mean, what if you start screaming, even if it wasn't your fault or like things were supposed to book, but they weren't? I mean, I don't think people would help you in that situation. Note for ourselves or for everybody else, always, if you did not get the confirmation email, always reach out and ask for details. Because if we would have thought about it the day earlier and maybe called, I don't know, hotel first and then Capital One, we would have resolved the situation a day before and not a night, well, when you're already there. But I'm glad it ended well.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. You know, we always talk about nursing our flights or gardening our flights, as Mitch likes to say, but we also have to do that with our hotels too. And especially when you're booking through a third party like Capital One. And, you know, I think I wouldn't have done anything about it. I would think that, you know, it's there on the Capital One portal. Then I think my reservation is good too. But this story just shows me that you have a really good P2. And he was really good about saying the magic words, because oftentimes the frontline person that you're speaking to on the phone, they can't do anything for you. So it's definitely the manager who is going to help you. So if you're thinking about going to Portugal and you would like to use some points to stay in some of these cities, here are your options. For Hyatt, there's the Hyatt Regency that Irina and her family stayed at. That will be 15,000 points per night. There's also an all-inclusive Dreams Madeira hotel, and that will only cover the first 2 people in the room. So if you're bringing children, you'll want to reach out to Hyatt to see what the additional cash cost is to have your children in the same room. For Hilton, there are various Hilton brands and lots of beautiful SLH properties that are in the 50,000 to 60,000 point per night range. There's the Conrad Algarve for 66,000 points per night, and there's a Doubletree in the Azores for 30,000 points per night. For Marriott, there are multiple Marriott brands, and they start as low as 17,000 points per night. And then for IHG, there are lots of Holiday Inns in Portugal, and they start at 20,000 points per night. There are also a few Intercontinentals in the 40,000 to 80,000 point per night range. Now, if you're a family of 4, like Irina's, and you want to stay in one hotel room, you'll want to check out IHG for the Holiday Inn in Lisbon, and a few of the Marriott properties also fit 4 people in a room. There is also a Marriott Residences in Algarve where you can get a 1-bedroom suite for 4 people for only 35,000 points per night. Irina, you talked about taking the train from Lisbon to Porto. How was that experience? Did you book your train tickets in advance?
For the train ride from Lisbon to Porto, I was Googling, and also my friend who lives in Germany, she's been to Portugal many times, and she said, oh, don't worry about it. You just arrive a little early and you can get it right there at the station, which we did. So we checked out of the hotel and then we drove to the station, and who knew that exact morning it would be a heavy fog in Lisbon and they would cancel a lot of flights. You couldn't see anything out of the window, but I didn't even connect the dots until we arrived at the station, and it was chaos. There was so many people. So there were no train rides for the next 2 hours, I believe. So we had to book the next one available. We had to leave our stuff in the lockers, which was also quite not easy because we had like 3 or 4 suitcases. So the lady told us it's going to be platform number 5, but we just believed her, didn't check anything, and it was on time. And we kept waiting on this specific platform until it was the time to leave and there was nothing there. I ran to the other side and then I started asking people, where is the train to Porto? And they were like, what do you mean? It left. We had to go book another train ride and pay 100 euros again. I mean, we didn't have any choice. We didn't have any choice. What are you going to do? And when the time came, we boarded the train and there was no one checking the tickets. And I wasn't even sure if that's the train to Porto. I was like, I don't really care. I just want to get out of here. So just get out of this city.
I'm glad that you're honest with things that go wrong because, you know, not every trip is going to be perfect. Things are not always going to go smoothly. You know, things are going to happen, like missing a train. And I think the most important thing is just to be calm. Everything will be fine. You just figure out a solution. And I'm sure the best thing to relieve this kind of stress is to eat. So let's talk about food now.
My favorite part. So I was only there for a day, so I didn't get to try a lot of things. But like I always like to do when I travel somewhere is I look up what is a specialty of food where I'm at this place. So one of the specialties in Porto is the francesinha. It is covered in cheese and this sauce, and you have the fried egg on top. Really, really good. So I went to a place and had this with a side of fries, and that was pretty much my Portuguese dinner that I had there. I also did try the pastel de nata, which is the egg custard. Oh, it was so flaky and sweet, and I definitely need to go back and try a lot of these other dishes. I know the other cities and regions in Portugal have their own specialties. Another specialty in Porto is the port wine. I didn't have any, but there are a lot of port wine tours, but that's all I was able to try during my short 24-hour trip to Portugal.
Irina, I know that you had the port wine on the plane. Did you have it on the ground as well?
Yes, we did. We actually, when we were in Porto, we went to the port tasting to the Kopke house. I believe that was the name. As always, I wasn't sure if they would allow us there with the kids, but they did. They were very nice about it. They even gave some free chocolate. It's not just about tasting the wine, right? It's also very educational, and the person working there to tell about the port, how it originated, about all the different varieties. So that was very interesting, but unfortunately we couldn't buy anything right there because we had only carry-ons. But when we were at the airport, at the duty free, I saw the very same bottle from the Kopke house. I was like, let's buy it. It's actually, we haven't even opened it ever since. It's going to be a year. I think it's like 20 years. So I'm adding years to that bottle. I'm assuming 30-year-old tawny port wine. Talking about food in Porto, as Miguel mentioned, we also tried the famous francesinha sandwich. It was very delicious. And basically, if you have that one sandwich, you're good for the day because it's full with meat, cheese, and sauce. So it is a very hearty meal. They also love cod, as in codfish in Porto. We went to a few places where they had this cod croquettes, grilled cod varieties. Portugal offers a lot of seafood variations. In Porto, we tried codfish. In Lisbon, a lot of restaurants offered sardines, and it was grilled sardines, plain grilled fish with a side of some fresh vegetables, and it was really good. I think literally for the 4 nights we were there, we tried the sardines at every place that we went to, and they were really good. I love seafood. Whenever we go somewhere and there's fish, I would always order fish and seafood. Another thing that we liked was grilled octopus, and the girls love it too, so would also order it everywhere. And for dessert, everybody agreed that it's pastel de nata, and you have to try it when you're in Portugal.
Miguel, I know you took a day trip to the Algarve region. I want to hear more about this. Can you tell us what made it so beautiful?
What makes the Algarve region so beautiful to me is the crystal clear turquoise waters. And there's these limestone cliffs. There are caves that you can only get to if you swim or kayak. So that's what I was trying to do. There's some really nice hidden caves. There's also a pirate ship activity. I really wanted to do it, but we weren't able to do it. If you have kids, look into this pirate ship tour that they offer in that region. Like you mentioned earlier, there's also a lot of luxury properties because it is a beautiful region of Europe. What we did, we went to a beach. Sadly, it was a little bit windy, so the wind would pick up the sand in the beach and hit us on the legs. So we didn't stick around too long, and we were there for a day trip. So unfortunately, we weren't able to go back to the beaches, but just going out to the beach and looking at the water was, other than the wind, it was like really nice views that we had there. Some of these beaches in the Algarve region are ranked some of the most beautiful beaches in the entire world. So it is a very nice destination if you're into a beach vacation or a beach trip. So what other activities did you do, Irina?
We would take a cab from Hyatt Regency to the historic center every day, basically just to explore the central area. So we visited a few museums, went to the National Pantheon, went to the old castle with beautiful city views. They had peacocks. I think they're wild. I mean, they were just roaming around the property, which the kids thought it was very cool and they were so beautiful. So that was very memorable. And then we took a day trip to Sintra, which is another smaller city close to Lisbon. We spent almost the whole day there. And then we explored other parts of Sintra. We just kept walking. When you look at Google Maps or Apple Maps, it says that you could leisurely walk to the historic center because the Pena Palace is on the hill. And it's at probably 20-30 minute walk downhill. So we started walking, but it ended up being a hike through the woods. It was literally a hike. I was like, okay, this is not what I expected, but we just kept going down. But it was very beautiful. And I would even suggest, if you can, to spend the night there, because there were some places that we wanted to visit, but we didn't have time. It's very beautiful and quaint, charming streets and all. So I would say if next time we go there, we would spend the night probably. In Porto, we had 2 full days. We took the Douro River cruise. Porto has a very interesting thing with bridges. So the city is divided into 2 parts and they have 6 bridges. That river cruise takes you through, under those 6 bridges, and there's an audio guide that tells you the history and name about each bridge. And it was really nice. The weather was really nice, actually. Late October, it could have been rainy, could have been a little colder, but it was pretty nice weather. Another thing to do in Porto was to visit that famous bookstore called the Livraria Lello, hypothetically inspired J.K. Rowling to add the library into the Harry Potter series. But again, that is not a confirmed information. It is very pretty and it has this central beautiful staircase. You need a ticket. And if you didn't book those in advance, okay, if you're there in the morning, there might be tickets available for the same evening. But you could buy a golden ticket, I believe it's called. So with that golden ticket, you pay for the entrance, and it also includes a small pocket book from the collection. So you basically paid for that little book with your ticket. And the kids were very excited to pick the books. Especially the 10-year-old.
So it sounds like you had a great time. And one of the questions I think is, before we get to last tips, is, did you feel the time that you spent was appropriate in these cities? Would you have changed anything?
I think for the very first time visiting the country, it was the right amount of days. But I would suggest if you could plan more days to visit the south of Portugal and maybe rent a car and explore that area and beaches and all, because that is really beautiful, as Miguel said. Interestingly, I usually like smaller cities versus bigger cities, but this time I really loved Lisbon. Maybe I would add one more night in Porto because we didn't really see much outside of the downtown historic center area. So we didn't go to the beach and didn't visit Douro Valley for the wine tasting and all. So if you have more time, I would suggest to visit those and explore those areas. Another very useful tip that the taxis are very cheap, especially compared to California here. Like, prices here are crazy. We downloaded both Uber and Bolt app. And when you land in Lisbon, they have a huge banner on the wall saying, if you use this code Hello Lisbon in the Bolt app, it's going to be like 70% off. So we did that. And I think we paid probably €3.50 for the 25-minute ride to the hotel, which is insane. So we did not even use public transportation in Lisbon, which is probably even cheaper. We didn't have to think about the schedules or find the bus stop and all those things. So every day we just used the taxi back into the hotel, and it was around €6-8 every time. And the thing is, even going to Sintra, and it was €18 for the 45-minute ride, and the car would pick you up right from the hotel. I was like, there's no way I'm skipping that. This is insane. I've never seen the taxi prices so cheap. That was very surprising. And I think Portugal actually ended up being our cheapest trip of 2024 in terms of how much we paid for the food, accommodations, and the taxi ride. So that is very affordable country, I might say.
We have given you some great tips tonight. We've given you great tips about what to eat, how to fly, and even the transportation when it comes to Ubers. There's some of the cheaper ones that you can find. I agree with you on that. We want to know, have you been, and what's your best tips? Leave us a comment below. Irina, it has been great having you here tonight. You've given us some great information about Lisbon. And if we want to chat more with you, where can we find you?
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. So I have an Instagram account. It's called On Points with Kids. I share basically everything from our trip planning, points and miles deals, hotel reviews, things that we did in a certain destination, kid-friendly itineraries, and flight reviews. And I also have a travel blog where I leave more detailed reviews and flight reviews, hotel reviews, detailed itineraries. And the travel blog, the website, is also called onpointswithkids.com. Come and join me there.
Yeah, I checked out your blog. You got some good stuff on there, so keep going. I liked reading it.
Thank you so much.
That's it for now. I want to thank all of our hosts. It's Serena.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Miguel.
Later.
And thank you for joining us tonight, Irina. We loved having you here.
Bye. Thank you.
And I'm Mitch Shannon. Sign up for our email newsletter. Just snap the QR code right now on your screen for the latest and everything going on in the Points and Miles world. Thank you for watching and listening.
Okay, it's over. You can have to open up that bottle of port wine now
right.
to celebrate.
Let's get to the points.com.